Hey everybody, in this episode we're going to be talking about brakes, basic operation and function of them, and how to replace the pads if you ever need to yourself. So basically, the basic function operation, when you hit the brake pedal, all the fluid travels through your brake lines. From the brake pedal, it'll come down to your lines, and it'll come into the brake caliper. The caliper has a little piston, as when you're applying pressure, that piston will come out and it'll tighten the brake pads to slow you down. As you release the pedal, that fluid returns back to where it's at in the system, and the brake pads themselves will separate and the vehicle will start rolling again. So right now I'm just going to show you guys, taking this apart real quick, what it looks like, what to look for, and where to apply the grease. So right now the bolts are already loose for this video purpose. Just going to remove them. This is your brake caliper. This is that little piston that applies the pressure and releases the pressure depending on what you're doing up on the brake pedal. So now this is a new set of brake pads. This little metal piece you see right here is your indicator. When the brake pads get low enough, this will start rubbing on the rotor and it'll start squealing to give you an idea to pay attention to your brakes, so that way you can get them replaced before they're completely out metal to metal. So if you wanted to remove the rotor, which we're not going to do in this video, there's just two more bolts here holding this bracket on. You'd remove the bracket. In this case, you got two screws you would remove. That rotor should come right off. But for right now, we're leaving that on. So right now you have these metal brackets right here, these little guides, if you will. This is where the brake pads sit. All you do is you're just gonna pop them in place. Just gotta pop those in place. So there's one on bottom, one on top. That's the little guide that grabs the ears on the brake pads themselves. So that way they go in evenly, they go in straight. Now these pins right here have little dust boots, but these are the part where whenever they sell you brakes, if you go to an auto parts store, you'll notice that they have little packs of the grease. A lot of people don't know where to apply the grease, and I'm going to show you where to put it. So these little pins right here are what allow the caliper to move in and out smoothly. If these bind up because there's no grease on them, they're seized up for whatever reason, your caliper is going to bind, it's going to stick, your brake pads are not going to apply evenly, and you might have some kind of pull, or you might not brake properly because of the pins not being lubricated. So you got to watch out for that whenever you get the grease pack. Whenever you do a brake job, grease these right here. All you do is slide them out, slide them right back in, and make sure the dust boot does grab it to protect it from any debris getting in there. So that's the basics. Now I'll just put the pads back on the caliper so you can see. Let's slide the little ear in on one side. Now once your pads are on there, they should have gone in smoothly, not by force, not with a hammer or anything. That means everything's lined up. Want to make sure you're able to spin it with no pressure applied, because when the caliper does put pressure on, then it won't spin anymore. Now we'll put this back on. Here's another tip. When you're putting this back on, make sure this right here is not kinked, because what you can do is you can actually twist it up and maybe get it on. But I've seen it before on longer hoses. Whenever that happens, it might cause a pull also. So you want to make sure that there's no stress on the hose. It's nice and smooth. You can line everything back up, put it on. You always want to start bolts by hand too, so you don't force them in, strip them. Again, for the video purposes, they do need to be torqued down. I'm just tightening them right now, just to kind of give you a basic understanding, keep the video short. So now that we've got it put on, installed, we'll just hit the brakes up there and make sure that it does apply, everything's fine. If you are gonna bleed the brakes, that'll probably be a different video. As far as bleeding, this is just installing the pads. So that's about it for now. Just that way you know where the grease goes. You can get the basic understanding of how to install some pads the right way, and you should be good to go. All right, see you on the next one.